Hey, I'm Jasmine, and I served in Tico 31 as a community economic development volunteer in Zona Norte in a site called Monterrey de San Carlos, which was a couple hours away from the Nicaraguan border. For me, the CASA, or Community Needs Assessment process, was initially very overwhelming. It just looked like a huge document that I had to fill out, and I didn't know what to do. And one of the things my language teachers did that was really helpful was she sat me down and together we wrote a couple lines about who I was, what Peace Corps was, and what I was there to do. And just having those lines in Spanish memorized and in my back pocket ended up being incredibly helpful anytime I introduced myself and anytime I had to speak in public. Just gave me that extra confidence boost. In addition, I realized that the CASA process was more of this jumping off point to meet people. It was this like formalized tool, this excuse that I could use to ask a lot of questions and learn from people in the community. So some of the pocket tools that I ended up using included this little survey that I had written for myself in Spanish. And I had my little notebook and I went around to all the businesses downtown asking the same questions and writing down the responses in my little notebook. Those notes really helped later on when writing that CASA report. I also got to know people just through cafecitos. So very informal, left the notebook at home, just got to sit with people and learn about their hopes and dreams and their thoughts about what was going well in the community. I had also learned during PST this thing called a FODA, or like a SWOT analysis. So I had gone to the local government, and luckily they gave me permission, as well as the women's group, to do these SWOT analyses with each one. And I got to learn about what they thought their strengths and weaknesses were, and ways that we might be able to work together in the future to address some of those weaknesses and threats through great opportunities that already existed in the community. We also did like this youth focus group, but I didn't call it a focus group because that would have been way too scary for the youth. It was literally my counterpart's daughter and some of her teen friends. And I bought juice and brought it to this little meeting, and we talked about like what was cool and like what wasn't cool and like how we were going to make it better. It was just a great time. I had a great time. Other tools that I had learned in Peace Corps included community mapping, which included drawing out where all the resources in the community were. But I learned that sometimes the people that have the most power or the most useful resources end up not being the most obvious people. For example, someone in my community that served as a recycling collector also had access to all of the keys to all the public buildings. And he and I developed a working relationship. And anytime I had a community meeting, I always had a venue because he had the keys and was willing to open up different buildings for me. So it was really nice and incredibly helpful. Another tip that I can give is that you should always ask for references. So, for example, I would speak to someone and then say, "Hey, you're so interesting. I love learning from you. Are there like other people I should maybe be talking to?" And then I would ask for that person's phone number. I collected phone numbers like gold nuggets because my community relied heavily on WhatsApp, and I knew that I needed it in order to be able to communicate. So phone numbers and referrals, so important in initially starting that CASA process and building those relationships in the community. Something that Peace Corps teaches you is that you say yes to all the opportunities. So say yes to that football game and the government meeting and the school board meeting and I don't know, every cafecito you can get your hands on. And that's true. You should absolutely start by saying yes every time. But know that as you are developing this social capital, as you're developing these relationships, you can start being a little bit more strategic about the things that you want to focus on. So maybe you don't want to judge the spelling bee, but instead, you want to focus your time helping this woman write a business plan. as the community gets to know you a little bit better, you can start gently picking and choosing the things that feel important to your community and to you.